It is January 7th, 2024. A strange video was uploaded to YouTube with the title Weird Minecraft Bugs, Bug Report Number 1. The video starts off and we are introduced to our two main characters, Sandy and Cargo. Both Sandy and Cargo seem to have just gotten back from a mining trip, as they both laugh about what happened in chat. Did you see when that spider dropped from the ceiling? It almost killed me. LOL, yeah, that was pretty funny. Both Sandy and Cargo head back to their house. Sandy doesn't know what to do, but Cargo suggests that they should go strip mining. They continue digging their already deep staircase to Y11 to have the best chance at finding diamonds. Both Sandy and Cargo mine for a while until their journey is halted by a flowing lava stream blocking their tunnel. Both Sandy and Cargo decide to go back to their base. However, when Sandy enters their house, the recording suddenly cuts. However, when the recording starts back up, it seems like it is reset, but no. Sandy seems to notice this too. This means not just the recording reset, Sandy himself also reset. He seems to take notice of this too. Why am I back here? However, Cargo never actually responds to any of these questions. Cargo is saying the exact same thing he said before when he was first in this forest. It seems like Sandy is trapped in a loop. And the creepiest part is Cargo doesn't even realize Sandy is there. He keeps saying the exact same thing, like he's a robot. However, Sandy thinks he's just having some very weird deja vu. And after Sandy follows Cargo into the mine, we can notice that the tunnel they dug up before is no longer there. Sandy seems to get scared that Cargo is acting this way, and he runs up to the surface. However, there is no surface. The recording cuts and we're in the POV of an unknown player. This black figure was watching over Sandy the entire time. The final scene of this video is a picture of Sandy and Cargo's house. What we learned from this video is that Sandy is in some sort of loop, and something is watching over Sandy, possibly controlling this loop. The second video starts off, and it seems that we are back at the start of the loop once again. This time, Sandy starts panicking, and instead of following Cargo, he turns the other direction, running away from him. I'm not going that way. After running for a little bit, it seems like the world has just stopped generating, and Sandy is able to peer over the edge, where it is just nothing but void. This is similar to when Sandy exited the strip mine. Instead of finding his base, it was just void. It is clear that they do not want Sandy escaping this loop. Sandy runs back to his strip mine, trying to find Cargo. However, when Sandy reaches the bottom of the staircase, he notices something horrifying. The hallway is infinite. When Sandy runs down this hallway for a little bit, he notices an exit on the right side of the hallway. Sandy takes this path down a dark, narrow hallway. When he reaches the end, the loop resets. However, there is something different. Instead of it being day, it is now the dead of night. And Cargo is nowhere to be seen. Not even his messages show up in chat. When Sandy gets back to his house, we notice an odd dirt tower that was not there before. When Sandy is walking into his house, we notice a weird black figure standing there watching him. And we can barely make out his name tag, reading voyeur, which is a French noun that means the one who sees. When Sandy enters his house, we notice something small but terrifying. This is a before and after image. You can notice that where Cargo's bed once was is now an empty part of the house. Sandy seems to take notice of this too. Cargo? Where is my friend? Sandy enters the infinitely spanning tunnel for the second time. As he gets deeper and deeper into the tunnel, black spots begin infecting the walls. When Sandy traverses deeper into the tunnel, we notice text pop up top left. I haven't talked to him in days. He hasn't played Minecraft with me for so long. I hope everything is alright. Where is he? Where is he? The video ends with a final frame of Sandy's house. However, this time the doors are open instead of closed. The biggest question that I had from this video is what person was writing that purple text. It couldn't have been Sandy because Sandy only talks in chat. However, the possibility of it being somebody like Cargo isn't far-fetched. Now I say this because Cargo could also be trapped in a loop just like Sandy, and maybe whatever is repeating those messages is imitating Cargo, so Sandy doesn't know that Cargo is really gone. The third video starts off and we are back at the start of the loop. Whilst it may be daytime, Cargo is still nowhere to be seen. Sandy decides that he's going to explore this world even more and try and uncover secrets he had not seen before. I really have to explore this world if I want to find out what's happening. When Cargo walks into his house, we notice a painting on the wall that was not there before. When Sandy goes downstairs and back upstairs, we notice the painting has changed. Now, in the moment, it is unclear what this painting means. However, after Sandy roams around in the forest for a little bit, he comes across a patch of lilacs. Now, comparing the painting and the lilacs, it is clear that the painting is meant to convey these lilacs, almost like it is telling Sandy where to go. As Sandy approaches the edge, he notices a pathway of invisible blocks. He follows this invisible pathway, straying farther and farther away from the mainland. As Sandy walks farther out, he notices a door in the distance. What the fuck? Sandy inches closer and closer to this doorway before he ultimately decides that this is his only option. Well, guess I don't have an option. Sandy opens the door to reveal a weird swarm of purple clouds. Sandy is in some sort of purple world. When Sandy tries to type in chat, he gets the message, unauthorized access, chat function disabled due to lack of developer permissions. Sandy roams around this weird world for a little bit before coming across a door with a sign labeling it experiment number 67801236. When Sandy enters the room, he notices a hole in the center of the room that seems to be some sort of portal. Sandy decides to enter it. Sandy is teleported into a world where he is watching over two Minecraft players. When one of them types in chat, we realize that he is watching over himself. But how is this possible, you may ask? Well, this goes back to my previous point that Cargo could also be trapped in a loop, and that there is also a fake Sandy out there too. Sandy keeps trying to call out to Cargo, but once again he cannot type in chat because he does not have permission. Sandy then decides to press the button to go back to what I'm going to call now the limbo. Sandy roams these halls until he finds another experiment room. He enters this experiment, and whilst Cargo and Sandy are still there, they are saying different things. Hey, I have an idea. Should we build a castle? Where in the universe the Sandy we know has never talked about building a castle. And looking closely, we notice that there is no entrance to a mine in this experiment. And you also may notice that their names are also different. It is clear that this may be a different universe of some kind, where some things are the same and some things are slightly different. After Sandy leaves that world, he enters a new one, but this one is different. This world seems to be heavily corrupted, and instead of people like Sandy or Cargo, there are two new people. However, this time, they can see Sandy, but Sandy cannot respond back as he still does not have permission to talk. Who in the fuck is that guy? Both of these players seem confused, and for a good reason. This strange guy they don't know is just floating above their house. When Sandy realizes he can't communicate back, he decides to leave this world. Sandy finds another experiment room, but this one has the text unstable under it. Sandy decides to enter it, but what he's met with is something terrifying. He's in a world that is way more corrupted than the last, and chunks clearly cannot generate very far. However, when Sandy tries to leave, he can't. As many times as he presses the button, he will not be transported back. But right before the video cuts, somebody sends a message in chat. A player by the username Exec04 says, "Uh-oh, like something has gone wrong." The video once again ends with the same final frame. However, Sandy's house is no longer there. There are several things to note from this video, so let me unpack it for you. What we learned from the video is that there are many different experiments being run on different Minecraft players. Whilst we don't know the exact number, we know there are lots of experiments going on. and we learn that it is not just with Sandy and Cargo. There are more people out there too, also trapped in these experiments. And the final detail from this video is the message from Exec 04. Exec obviously means executive, and the number 4 next to it hints that there are more executives. Are these executives helping run these experiments? Well, we'll just have to watch the next video to find out. The next video starts at the beginning of the loop. Sandy runs around for a little bit before he decides that he has to go back to the limbo world. I have to get back there. Sandy makes it back to the patch of lilacs and starts walking across the invisible pathway once again. However, this time Sandy can't seem to find the door until the video cuts. Sandy is back in the world with those 2 random players. It seems Sandy has spawned on a different invisible path. Could this mean that these players also have an entrance into the limbo world? Unlike last time, Sandy is able to walk on the ground and also type in chat. Hello? Who are you? I'm not very sure of what just happened. I kind of just walked away from my house and now I'm here. Sandy asks if he can stay there to explore the world even further. When Sandy was walking around, we noticed another player by the name of Sightseer in a lilac bush. Ziphold, one of the players, offers to give Sandy some diamonds. Sandy does end up taking these diamonds and starts looking through their chests. Sandy opens a chest named Plants, and this happens. If you look closely, you notice that his inventory has changed. The poppies in his inventory have turned into lilacs. It is clear these lilacs have to mean something, as we have seen them many times throughout the series. They have even been used to mark where the portal to the limbo is. Going back to the video, we realize that Ziphoid and Serene Mist are no longer there, until a player by the name Exec 03 sent a message in chat.
Sandy.
Who's this?
That doesn't matter. Sandy, you have to stop.
Stop what?
You have achieved something you should not have achieved.
What does that even mean?
I got the signals from you. You are pushing the limits.
How did I even get here?
Listen. Stop talking for a second.
Where is my friend? Cargo.
I think it's better off if I just mute you. You are not listening to me.
Sandy then loses his chatting permissions.
Why are you, out of everyone, acting like this? The fact that you can even talk to me fathoms me.
Sandy keeps trying to ask about Cargo, but to no avail.
Your friend is not coming back, Sandy. He never even played with you. Now if you excuse me.
The chat then says Exec 03 has been warped to limbo. The video continues in the point of view of Exec 03. Exec 03 then enters the unstable world. They ask another executive,
are you sure this is safe?
Before using a command called /TP down to teleport down to the ground. In a different lilac bush, we notice another player called Spectator.
I mean, just in case, you should lock the world. I just don't want this to reach Sandy.
Exec 07 gives the command to lock the world. The ID number is the same as the experiment room number. Exec 03 then locks the world. They then say something very notable.
He somehow became a thinking mind, which is interesting. His memories got wiped when we brought him into this world. That's very weird. Like I said, close the world just in case. This could trigger something in him if he joins.
Right before the video cuts, an unknown executive joins the game. The video ends with an image of Sandy's house, but it is far more distorted than any other. This video has much to unpack, so let's get into it, starting with these executives. In the video, it is confirmed that there is more than just one executive, and they all seem to be working together on the same exact project. Now going into some of the things that these executives have said. These 2 messages are extremely discerning. They seem to have wiped Sandy's memory before this experiment. But why? The answer is still unknown. This message from Exec 03 says that Cargo never even played with Sandy. This goes back to my original theory that Cargo wasn't even a real person, like he was some sort of puppet they were using to keep Sandy in this experiment. The final thing I want to note is this end scene. Could this unknown executive be Sandy? Now if it was, it would be unclear how he managed to get into this world, despite the world being locked. The next video starts in the point of view of Exec 09. They seem to be walking on a weird pathway of prismarine blocks before they reach a room of chests. They open a chest labeled number 9, and inside is a weird item named 851163, number 0338. The item seems to be some sort of book. Exec 09 continues up a staircase and down a hallway. They go into a room labeled number 9, and inside is some sort of computer. However, if you look closely, you may notice that these are dots and dashes, and in Morse code, it translates to the word decayed. In chat, Exec 09 says,
"He's been lurking again. He was spotted in the unstable dimension. He found out about the real house. He knows too much now, but he somehow got in. We aren't completely sure how to stop him. You might have to intervene."
Now, it is likely that the person Exec 09 is talking about is Sandy. However, we are unsure who Exec 09 is talking to. Now, the final thing I want to note is the description of this video. The description contains an odd series of numbers that seemingly have no meaning. The 6th video starts off back at the beginning of the loop. Sandy types a command that brings him to the unstable dimension. It is unknown how Sandy got this command. Sandy spawns in a dark room with a large cobblestone staircase. Sandy takes this staircase up to the surface. However, when Sandy walks into the house, something is different. Instead of there being a storage room in the basement, there's a door. Behind this door, there is some sort of underground house, with many rooms like a dining room, bedroom, and even bathrooms. After wandering around for a little bit, Sandy finds a weird red chest. Opening the chest reveals that it has the name Stored Vessel Information. The chest has 4 books that seem to be diaries that are labeled with dates. They are all written by the same person, Matthew David. Sandy takes out all of these books from the chest and begins reading them. The first entry is dated June 2nd, 2017. The diary starts off very normal. Matthew says that he's preparing for a big math exam and that he doesn't have time to play Minecraft with his friends as much as he used to. Matthew also says that he is 17 years old and that he's very excited to finish school. Then Matthew says that he got a 16.7 out of 20 on his math exam, and he says that he's very excited about it. Then Matthew mentions his friend, Andrew. Now that that's done, I can hit Andrew up and see if he wants to play survival with me on the new Minecraft version. Andrew is as passionate about Minecraft as I am. We have both been playing for a long time, and became best friends because of it. Back in like 8th grade, we would hang out in the school library and try to install mods. That didn't really work, however, but we still played HG sometimes when we didn't have class. Matthew and Andrew are very good friends. After Sandy reads the journal for a little bit, he says that it sounds very familiar. Sandy opens the diary labeled July, and this diary's mood is completely different. I haven't been able to go anywhere for the past 2 days. I've been kinda sick. Nothing too bad, probably just a flu or something like that. I did see a weird creature in my game though, could just be me going crazy. I've been having a lot of fun playing on the Minecraft server. I still haven't really gotten much better though. This headache kinda sucks. Then we were introduced to one of Matthew's other friends, Thomas. Thomas built his house on top of a mountain, and it looks much better than everyone else's. Then Matthew talks about the creature again. Oh, about that creature I saw the first of the month. I didn't really find it again. I did hear some weird sounds though. It kind of looked like a player, but it just doesn't make any sense, because we are hosting this on Hamachi. And I checked Hamachi a few minutes ago. There's no one other than us 3 on the world. Weird. My friends say that I might be overthinking this. Could have just been a cow or something. In the next diary entry, Matthew says that his condition hasn't been getting much better. His head has really been hurting, and his hands have been constantly shaking. Matthew says he doesn't know what is exactly causing it, and he's afraid that it might not just be the flu. In the next diary entry, Matthew recounts something terrifying. Nope, there's definitely something going on. I saw the same player once again whilst I was working on the castle, and this time I saw his skin. He seemed to have a white O3 on his head, whilst the rest of his skin was fully black. Wait, doesn't this sound familiar? Each executive skin has their exec number on their head, as seen in this image. Could this mean that Matthew, Thomas, and Andrew were also trapped in some sort of experiment? Sandy continues reading the diary, and Matthew explains that his sickness is getting worse. He says that red spots have been appearing all over his body, and that this is definitely not the flu. My mom already knows about this, and she's planning on bringing me to the doctor on Saturday. Matthew then explains that his friends have also been experiencing some sort of sickness too, but not as serious. They've just been having small headaches. A few weeks later, after Matthew went to the doctors told him they have no clue what this sickness is. He also says that his friends are feeling the exact same symptoms as he did a few weeks ago. Apparently, a lot of teenagers across the world are somehow catching this disease, or whatever the fuck it is. Matthew then talks about spotting the Execo3 guy once again. Matthew says that Execo3 has sent no messages in chat, but he can feel them talking telepathically. Matthew then says that he thinks the disease has spread across their friend group. Matthew's journals start documenting his slow descent into madness. He says that his skin is entirely pale with the exception of the red spots. Matthew describes a deep emptiness inside of him, and a feeling of sadness, loneliness, and pain. These diaries begin to become more poetic and cryptic as he describes a feeling of him being pulled closer into his monitor. His diary ends, and it's unknown if he's alive or dead. Sandy returns these diaries to the chest. When Sandy turns around, behind him he notices Cargo. Cargo begins talking to Sandy, and he begins talking back. However, we quickly realize that this is not Cargo. Cargo's messages have proper grammar and punctuation, which deviates heavily from how he normally speaks. And whenever Cargo referred to Sandy, he would use the capital Y, which is the exact same way the execs would talk to him. Now it was becoming clear that this was not Cargo, and Sandy realizes this. Sandy runs outside of the house, trying to escape whatever this is. Sandy runs back down the cobblestone staircase, and Cargo says one last time, "You will regret this moment. You will always be the mistake known for ruining everything." As the screen cuts to black, text flashes right before the video ends, reading, "He has no control here." This 7th video starts off from the point of view of somebody we have never seen before. They have a red skin and they are in a completely different world. We learn this player's name is Architect when they type in chat. Now you may notice that this computer is vaguely familiar to the one we saw in the video envoyeur, and taking a closer look we notice that both the Morse codes translate to the word decayed. In the video, the Architect seems to be talking to himself. Comparing these messages to the ones in envoyeur, it is revealed that this is the other half of that conversation. The Architect is disappointed in all of the execs for letting Sandy get into this unstable world. The Architect says that all they had to do was lock the world, but Execo9 explains that they did, and he somehow got in. The Architect also says that there are 64 different execs in total. The Architect walks away from the terminal, leaving Execo9 talking to himself. The final thing to note from this video is its description. The text by itself makes absolutely zero sense. A few English words can be read from it, but the rest is just gibberish. Now going back to the description of envoyeur. Envoyeur's description contains 16 seemingly random numbers, which matches the number of lines seen in recepteur. If you look at the first line and go 23 letters over, we get the letter B. Doing this for every single line gives us a word. Body lacking a soul. This text seems useless at first. However, it has some sort of correlation to Matthew David's journals. Nearing the end, he describes a feeling of emptiness, like a body lacking a soul. Furthermore, the chest itself was named Stored Vessel Information. A vessel is an empty container. It is clear that we have seen this concept many times before. The 8th video seems to take place right after Exec 09's talk with the architect. A few seconds later, Exec 22 comes over and starts talking to Exec 09. 09 tells 22 that the architect told them to work on some of Sandy's bugs. 09 enters his terminal and starts inputting a code, which is the exact same as the one on his book. 09 enters the terminal and clicks on players. In this players section, we see that every other experiment has great eyes, except for 3 of them: Sandy, Serene Mist, and Ziphoid. Notice how Sandy has a red dye and is labeled as sentient. His location is also unknown, while Serene Mist and Ziphoid have pink dyes. They are labeled as thinking minds, and their location is specified. Whilst every other person has a grey dye and is labeled as a vessel, and once again we see the concept of a vessel, showing that these people are just empty and are not even real people. They are just part of this experiment. And since Sandy is sentient, that means he's broken free from this grasp. It is an odd concept, but we are finally getting some answers to these experiments. The video continues and 09 right-clicks on Sandy, Serene Mist, and Ziphoid's icons, reporting them to the architect. He hovers over the unstable world and changes the access from admins to nobody. 09 tests this out by trying to teleport to the world, and it denies him, showing that the lock has worked. Exec 13 confirms this by asking if he turned off all access to the real house world. We can assume the real house world is the unstable world, as it had that house in the basement. The video continues and 09 opens the terminal once again. Then they click on the section called Global Cameras. They click on the camera called Sightseer. Serene Mist stares at this camera for a very long time, and whilst she does, this noise plays on in the background. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know this audio isn't just random. To see what it truly means, we'll have to use a spectrogram. A spectrogram basically allows us to see audio in an image format. It measures time on the x-axis and frequency on the y-axis. I won't go too in depth, but it basically allows us to see hidden images inside of audio clips. Putting this strange audio through a spectrogram gives us this text. Lying in my bed, unable to move. I can't get up, I can't even blink, everything hurts. Whilst not directly stated, the text does have some correlation to Matthew David's journals. As his sickness progresses, he describes a feeling of not being able to leave his bed. Could these words be from somebody who also went through this sickness? We may never know. The video continues and Exec 05 walks in on Exec 09. 05 says that he's confused and asks 09 what he's meant to do. 09 tells them that they are investigating Sandy. 05 acts a little bit strange and abruptly leaves. It is then revealed in chat that 05 had teleported to the unstable world. 09 checks back and it's revealed that the world has been unlocked by most likely Exec 05. When 09 turns around, Exec 35 is right behind him and he asks him a question.
Yo 09, just wondering, does locking the real house world work for you?
09 tells 35 that he was just testing and it doesn't work. Exec 35 says he finds 05 very weird and that he doesn't trust him very much. 09 agrees. 09 enters the terminal and tries locking the real house world, but it doesn't let him. 09 then decides to teleport to the world to see what's going on. He goes down to the basement, but there is something different. Weird red blocks fill the room. 09 eventually takes the path that Sandy took to find that red chest. In that room, they find 05. He destroys the chest and burns the books in lava. When he notices 09, he punches him and runs away. 09 chases him, but to no avail. It is then shown in chat that 05 had teleported to an unrecognized map. Video then cuts to a scene with a white world and a table and chairs. 05 then walks into frame. This must be the unrecognized map. There is a lot of information from this video, so let's unpack it. Starting off with the 3 levels a player can become. Each player will start off as a vessel, where they have no real control over themselves and are trapped in that loop. When Sandy broke out of the loop and found a limbo, that is when he became a thinking mind. This is further supported by messages from the video meeting.
He somehow became a thinking mind. which is very interesting.
Now going back to Ziphoid and Serene Mist. Each of them became thinking minds when Sandy entered their world. After this, Sandy found the real house world, which is the world that had all of those diaries. When he read them, it brought back some sort of memory which allowed him to become sentient. It seems like reading these diaries triggered something inside of Sandy, which allowed him to gain full control over his body. The final thing I want to note is the name of this chest. This was the chest that contained Matthew David's journals. Since we now know what a vessel is, could this mean that Matthew, Thomas, and Andrew are previous vessels, and these are journals documenting their pain? Well, we'll just have to watch the next video to find out more. The 9th video starts off with Sandy falling down a large pit. He lands on top of a tree. This tree seems to be in some sort of grassy area inside of a large stone brick room. Sandy explores this cobblestone world and he realizes this expanse is much larger than it seems. Weird blocks of light illuminate corners of the world, some closed off with iron bars and some not. Sandy also comes across a few paintings throughout this world. A lilac, a white world, a landscape, and the limbo. However, there is one painting that differs from the rest. Sandy finds a room with a picture of the real house on the wall. Another thing to note is this room looks oddly similar to the interior of the real house. However, the basement is just replaced with void. However, after a bit of wandering, it is clear there are many things wrong with this place. Eventually, Sandy comes across a jukebox. However, when Sandy tries to leave the room, the exit is no longer there. And earlier, this is where he entered through. The exit seemingly vanished without a trace. Then the jukebox starts playing a song, Ward by C418. Sandy goes down and breaks the jukebox, causing it to stop playing music. After this, a new exit appears, a staircase going downwards. Sandy takes this path and it leads him back to the tree. However, when Sandy turns around and looks back, the pathway is gone. Eventually, Sandy makes his way to the edge of the map. The video ends with him staring into the sunset. Our 10th video starts directly where we left off previously. Sandy roams around this world for a little bit before he finds something, a lever labeled emergency switch. He flips it. When he does, Sandy is transported to the unrecognized map. At the table, we see Exec 5 waiting for him. Then we get one of the biggest reveals in the series. I have a lot to tell you, Andrew. This whole time, Sandy was Andrew, the person from Matthew David's journals. Then Exec 5 says that he's Thomas, one of Matthew's other friends. This leaves one final person, Cargo, who must be Matthew. Exec 5 gives us the best explanation to these experiments to date. A few years ago, a weird sickness came about. It first infected Cargo, or Matthew, then Sandy, or Andrew. Each person inflicted with this sickness become vessels. Each of these vessels are forced to be trapped inside of this loop. All loops and vessels exist inside of a place called the Concept. Execs are the people who manage it, and Thomas got hired as one. Execs are managed by the architect who also created the concept. Now, as we all know, vessels can progress in levels, and when Andrew became a thinking mind, this alerted the execs, so they sent a camera into his world to monitor him. This explains how Sandy saw Voyager in his world. And when Andrew became sentient, the execs alerted the architect. This caused the architect to send Sandy into the disposal, which was that stone brick world he was just in. However, Sandy pulled the emergency switch which sent him into O5's world. Video continues and Thomas explains to Andrew that if he wants to get Matthew back, he has to go back to his loop. If you want Matthew back, you need to go back to your loop. You need to get Voyager on your world. I will enable Matthew to possess Voyager. Voyager will be out of order and replaced with Matthew's vessel. From there on out, it's you. Thomas then says that Andrew will need to go to the limbo. Andrew then presses the button to go back to his loop. Andrew returns back to the start of his loop. He finds Voyager and tries talking to him. Matthew? Then he responds.
Andrew? Matthew, is that really you? I don't feel right.
Matthew seems to remember who Andrew was.
Andrew, I know you.
Matthew's confused, but Andrew says he's going to explain. Matthew seems to recognize the world. Matthew explores while Andrew follows.
Do you remember this house? Yes, we built it.
Andrew explains a summarized version of what Thomas told him. He mainly tells Matthew about the loops. It is clear that Matthew, or Cargo, has stepped up from a vessel to a thinking mind. Andrew begins taking Matthew to the limbo, and the screen fades to black. This next video is different. It's titled A Message to You, and it seems to be directed to us, the viewers.
Hello, this is Architect speaking. I'm sure you know who I am, viewer. I seriously discourage you from watching further content on this YouTube channel. Everything you've seen so far is a mere act of fiction. I don't know who's in charge of uploading all these videos, but I am unable to remove content from it. This is not what the concept is about. These videos are fabricated. Their only intention is to make you believe them. To make it look like I'm the bad person here. Keep that in mind if you don't want to continue watching. Do not believe anything posted here. Farewell.
This video is strange, but it does pose a big question. Who actually is posting these videos? The answer is unclear, but we'll have to keep watching if we want to find out the full truth. The 12th video starts off in the point of view of Matthew. They seem to have just entered the limbo. They enter the experiment 8389 world, which is the world with Xiphoid and Serene Mist. They each use the command /TP down. It is unclear how Andrew got this command. Serene Mist comes and Andrew asks if Xiphoid is here. Serene Mist says she doesn't know where he is.
I actually don't know where he went. So he pulled a cargo? Not cool.
Serene Mist says she doesn't know anything about these execs, showing that she isn't sentient quite yet. Andrew attempts to give a brief explanation and Serene Mist doesn't quite understand. However, she agrees to go to limbo with them. Each of them build upwards to get to the button. Matthew is the first to press it. This video continues directly from the previous. Matthew, Andrew, and Serene Mist are now in the limbo. Matthew now has his old username back, Cargo Ships. Also, apparently his skin is half voyeur and half cargo. However, we don't see it. Andrew takes everyone to the unstable dimension. When they get there, we see the real house has now been infected with many different color blocks. When they get to the basement, we see lights and furniture are missing. They make their way to the room with the chest, only to see that the chest has been destroyed by Thomas. However, Andrew didn't know this. Andrew then decides to leave the real house. However, on their way back, they run into Thomas. Thomas says that he's doing a report on the world status, but in reality, he's doing it to get closer to the group. Thomas doesn't give an explanation on why he burned the diaries. Thomas says that if they jump into the void of the limbo, there is something there.
You'll appear in a different place, but it's odd. It's simply backdoor ARG added in case you fell down.
The group is now in limbo and they contemplate jumping over the edge. Then one of the players hits Matthew down into the void. The video ends. The video starts and the group seems to be in some weird dark place. They explore a few buildings, but nobody says a word. Then Matthew says something in chat.
We have been walking for so long. This place freaks me out.
Andrew attempts to reassure him.
We will find it eventually. He wouldn't just send us here to die.
Matthew then heads to a large building in the distance. The group follows. Andrew heads into the building by himself. Waiting for him inside the building is a replica of their house. This video returns to the world of the Architect. We now see that there's a red side and a blue side. There's a total of 4 people on each side. On the blue side, there's the instigator, shaper, creator, and founder. On the red side, there's the originator, inventor, and author. The Architect shows up late. The purpose of this meeting was to discuss anomalies in Architect's worlds. Apparently, all the anomalies were located in Architect's quadrant. The creator refers to a she who we don't know quite yet. The architect says that the anomalies are being taken care of, but the author questions him.
It's Sandy, right?
It seems as the architect isn't aware that the group is in Abgrund, or the Abyss. The architect says that it's not that big of a deal and the Abyss is just a barren wasteland. However, the instigator corrects him. He says that Andrew reached a place called Grenzen, which is German for borders. The creator says that they are getting closer.
What do you think happens when they reach the last layer?
The architect doesn't have an answer.
If you don't send your workers to capture them, then well, I'm sure you can figure that last part out. Don't make us have to interfere is what I'm trying to say.
The architect says that he'll get them and he leaves the meeting. This interaction is small, but it shows a lot about the architect. First of all, he doesn't work alone, there's 7 other people helping him. And if I'm being honest, he kind of sucks at his job. First, he shows up late, and many times throughout this conversation, he doesn't realize the severity of the situation. He keeps trying to brush it off and say it's not important when it really is. The creator also refers to a she, and that she wanted them to meet. Could this mean that there's someone higher up than these red and blue people? The video continues in the point of view of Andrew. He is seen exploring this dark abyss. However, this time it's not just a house, there's also a castle. Andrew explores around this castle for a little bit. He eventually finds a trapdoor with ladders underneath. As he descends these ladders, he starts begging for Thomas. The video cuts to black. The video starts off and we see Serene, Mist, and Matthew, who are waiting for Andrew to get back. A new player walks into view. Their name is Exec 111. Exec 111 confirms that they don't work with them, referring to the other execs. They explain that Abgrund, the place they're in, imitates the bottom of the ocean. The Abyss is a layered network. It's beneath the entirety of the concept. 111 explains that Grenzen is the next layer of this network. 111 says that the way Andrew took is incredibly risky. 111 tells him a better place to enter Grenzen. They tell the group to walk through the flats and they'll end up at the main location. 111 says that the main location has a bunch of towers scattered around. The video fades to black as they both try to find the main location. This video continues right where we left off. They continue walking until many towers come into view. They each explore the 4 towers but find nothing of interest. They each head to the one that's brighter than the rest. They stand at the entrance looking at a hole. They decide that this is their only way out of the abyss. Serene does a countdown and Matthew jumps in. The video cuts to black. This video takes place in the point of view of Thomas. We see him standing in his white world, in some sort of trance. He then uses a command to teleport to the limbo. When he arrives, he runs around for a little bit until he runs into the architect.
Ah, Thomas. What a surprise to see you here.
Shit.
What seems to be the matter? Well, I already know what you've been up to.
Shut up, you know this place is sick. Even she wouldn't control it to the extent you do.
You don't have to bring her into the conversation. Listen, if you try that again, I will end you.
You can't even control them yourself. O9 called you and you told us to do it.
I told you all to deal with the anomalies. What's so difficult about following simple orders?
They're my fucking friends, Ark. You locked my friends into this twisted place, you and the other keepers.
I understand that. Though you signed everything that was handed to you, you don't think you'd lose some sort of humanity from that?
I didn't know.
Well, that's on you. You're weak and fragile, easily manipulated.
I just want my friends back. I want everything to be fine. Fuck you and everything you stand for.
Thomas runs away from the architect. The architect chases close behind.
Thomas, come back here. I'm going to end you.
Thomas escapes by jumping into the void and being sent to the abyss. This video is a conversation between Matthew and Andrew. It seems to be a real-life conversation put into a Minecraft form. This looks like it's before they caught the disease.
School is so tiring sometimes. And to think we're just a few months away from going to college.
It kinda creeps me out.
Same. The sky isn't really the prettiest today.
Wish I could stare for a bit longer. The rain's messing with my eyes.
I know, right? It's kind of relaxing to just stare into nothing.
It is. It makes me think, actually. What purpose do we even have? What goal are we supposed to achieve? Or is it just taken away from you when you die? It's really cruel.
But it's worth it. Like, even if nothing matters, even if nothing would change if I never existed, at least I get to live. At least I get to meet people like you. At least I can have friends or people who understand me.
Best way to go through all of this might be just to ignore it. As much as it's hard sometimes.
And the fact that we might never meet again after school ends, it makes me really sad. Never did I once think to leave you behind, Matthew.
We have our ups and downs, and that's fine, honestly.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna leave for now. I hope to see you again soon.
The video strangely starts off with this scene. There's a total of 7 flashing images: a real-life image of purple flowers, an image of Matthew sitting alone, Exec 5's white world, the courtyard scene and disposal, an image of an experiment room, the real house, and a physical book. However, it's not clear what the purpose of these images are. The video switches back to Matthew's perspective, and now it's his turn to go to Grenzen. However, Serene Mist is not with him, even though they both jumped into the pit simultaneously. It seems as this version of Matthew's Grenzen is different. He seems to have many structures from his old Minecraft world in here. Even a replica of Thomas's house is here. He turns away for a minute and a castle appears. When he explores the castle, he says it is just how he remembered it. The thing to note is the different reactions Matthew and Andrew had to being inside this castle. Matthew seems to like it whilst Andrew doesn't like it at all. The video continues in the POV of Thomas. Since he jumped into the void of the limbo, he is now in the abyss. Thomas says that everything is going downhill, before running away to go to Grenzen. When Thomas reaches Grenzen, we see his table from his map. It seems like everyone's Grenzen is different. This is revealed when Thomas breaks the blocks to the void, and we see that there are hundreds of different Grenzens. Video cuts to Matthew's perspective, and we see Thomas break through the black walls.
Matthew, hurry up. We gotta go right now.
Matthew gives a confused reaction.
WTF? You just broke the void.
Thomas says that all the walls are just an illusion. Thomas wants to leave with Matthew, but Matthew doesn't want to leave Serene Mist behind. Thomas says that they'll have to leave her behind for now. They each jump into the void. This world is truly beautiful. We are in the point of view of Andrew, who already entered the world before Matthew and Thomas. He makes his way to a tree that stands out amongst the field of flowers. After waiting for a little bit, Andrew reunites with Thomas and Matthew. They start catching up with each other until Andrew spots the architect in the distance.
Dude.
Taking some time off, aren't you? Anomalies, frauds. They're synonymous, really.
Assuming you're the higher up here, what makes you think that what you're doing is okay?
What makes you believe that you can question my decisions? I mean, Sandy, you're the first of the anomalies. You've been through it all, haven't you?
I have experienced it firsthand, yeah. Having to go through your ultimate scheme. Don't you think it's a little bit unfair that you decide what happens to us for the rest of our lives? Maybe you aren't even the one in charge, you act as a puppet in the actual grand scheme of things. You don't let us fulfill our own destiny. Do you really think that you're a god?
That's enough. Being one of the keepers, it is my duty to contain all of you here.
Then Thomas interjects.
And what if the keepers see you as weak? From what I can tell, all you've done is sit back and watch as everything unfolds.
Thomas, don't you dare. The keepers, they respect me, I respect them. My intentions are clear. I wish to contain the vessels within the respective worlds. I asked you this earlier, didn't I? You being an exec, it's your job to listen to my orders.
I didn't though. Did that make you mad? Seeing one of your trustworthy execs disobey you shamelessly?
It's pathetic. All these questions about what do I gain from this? What do you gain from this? You've gone all this way only to disobey me, to disobey her.
Once again, that unknown female character is mentioned. Thomas then brings up the time where the architect told him not to bring her up.
You didn't just bring her up. You literally told me not to do that.
So you can listen to orders, is that what you're saying?
Then Andrew intervenes.
Tell me, how powerful are you, really? Are you truly the powerful being you make yourself out to be? Or is it a facade?
Sandy.
You don't even dare to use my real name. Are you this afraid of me?
The architect backs away.
You are weak.
The video cuts to Matthew's POV. The architect is no longer there. It seems as questioning his authority got rid of him. Andrew asks about a back door that Thomas mentioned, which is the only reason why they are here. Thomas says that he doesn't know if the back door really exists.
It was a blind guess from rumors I had heard among other execs.
This means that the group is stuck in the garden. Thomas says that the execs have no one to take orders from, so that they won't be coming down here anytime soon. Matthew stares at the night sky and the moon, like he's in some sort of trance. Sandy asks,
Is that just me? I know what you're talking about. I feel it too.
Thomas says that she is coming. Then a player appears in front of the tree.
I must say, it is quite unexpected seeing you here.
Her name is Jacinth, and she has a white skin with purple flowers all over it. Andrew asks who she is. She responds,
My name is Jacinth. I am the caretaker. Having visitors is not something you see every day.
I never thought this would happen.
Thomas, dear, I do not show myself. You know that, yes?
I do. Why are you here now, though?
Well, a vessel eliminating a keeper. Fascinating, isn't it?
It is, but like how? Isn't that impossible?
Not necessarily. Andrew may be powerful, but this is new. My vision has always been to maintain peace within the concept.
So you created the concept?
Indeed.
This whole time it wasn't the architect who created it. It was Jacinth. Her intention with the concept wasn't to cause harm. It was a place to keep vessels with the sickness alive, so their soul lives on forever. And apparently every single flower in the garden represents a vessel. And the tree here gives life to these vessels. Jacinth says that there is no way to free the vessels. However, Andrew asks if there's a way to break the concept, but Jacinth immediately dismisses this conversation. Jacinth then leaves, leaving them there by themselves. Andrew then gets an idea on how to break free. He suggests giving a sacrifice. He says that it's the only way to destroy the concept, to let the vessels rest. Sandy says that Jacinth is too attached to these vessels to let go. Matthew tells Andrew it's not worth it, but despite everybody's pleads, Andrew goes through with it.
This is the best option, guys. It was a great ride. I know it hurts, but think about what I'm truly doing. No loop will ever have to play again. And while we aren't free anymore, nor will we ever be in any possible world, at least we once were. We will miss you, Andrew. I'll miss you guys too.
The screen cuts to black. The camera is now in a third-person perspective. Andrew is gone, as well as the tree. Thomas and Matthew comment on how nice the world is. The wind starts swelling and the world grows white. The concept has collapsed. This is the end of the Decayed. Maybe things just have to come to an end sometimes. Nearly paramount to growth despite the loss. Everyone has a destiny. Some find it sooner than others, some later on. Though some may try to force their vision of your destiny upon you. In the end, it's only your own that prevails. Things are tough in this world. Nobody ever wants to lose someone close to them. We've seen it countless times. It ends up okay. At least that's what we hope. When your fate is sealed, eventually you'll have to accept it. It might be difficult at first, but you will have to. I'm sorry we all are, but it's reality. You may hope to see each other again, maybe one day, but for now, it's goodbye. The final thing I want to note about this channel is it's about me.
Doing and doing and doing, without a reason, without a consciousness, without a change, without an end.
And if you look at the channel's banner, we see the text,
At least we once were.
showing that the loop has finally ended.